Alas Caherly agus go maiige Ira to Fáilte Road Rice Seachtain Italian to Grohachtich. Minister, you're welcome back during what's a very busy week, and I know it'll be another busy week next week for you in terms of justice legislation come before us in the House. I want to begin my remarks, Minister, by seeking your forgiveness. I'll have to return to the Brexit Committee upon conclusion of my remarks, but certainly, as Martin has said, there is support for this legislation in this House, and I look forward to engaging with it at later stages. I also want to reiterate the words of thanks to our colleague on the Justice Committee, Deputy Claire Daly. She's still a deputy for another few weeks yet, Martin. I'm sure she'll forgive us. But certainly, I think she has brought this issue to the fore. And while I don't say this in a confrontational or combative way, Minister, I think it's down to Claire's diligence that in many ways has seen this legislation brought by government today. And that's part and parcel of our work here, and it's important that we acknowledge that. For our part, we in Sinn Féin believe it's incredibly important that the merit of inquests is extended to look beyond the medical cause and into the circumstances leading to the death. Issues relating to deaths can be tragic, and it's vital that a coroner can look at these matters holistically if the situation necessitates it. I'm glad that this bill will eventually extend the powers of the coroner when requesting witnesses and evidence and allowing for questioning if required. I feel that the powers this bill gives to the coroners are proportionate to the job they have to do, especially in cases where a thorough investigation is needed, such as in the case of a violent death or medical misadventure. In such cases, as we have seen many times before, such as in the cases of maternal deaths and others, coroners' powers have proven to be ineffective in investigations. This bill seeks to give the coroner powers of warrant, of search and seizure of documents, and also penalises those who refuse to cooperate with inquests. I am glad to see that mandatory reporting to the coroner will be extended where cause of death is unknown and if deaths are somewhat suspicious or unnatural, such as where a death has occurred in a violent or unnatural manner or by unfair means, by misadventure or in other areas. As stated at the outset, this bill responds to Deputy Claire Daly's bill introducing mandatory inquests in all cases of maternal death or late maternal deaths and extends legal aid to family members of the deceased. As it currently stands, maternal deaths are treated as deaths which must, as a result, or practice be reported to the coroner. However, inquests are not automatically granted in these cases. Between 2007 and 2013, 8 inquests were held following maternal deaths. All 8 cases resulted in rulings of medical misadventure. It is a duty of the state to investigate deaths that take place in suspicious circumstances or in circumstances that leave them open to question. Too many families in this state have been left facing a wall of bureaucracy on their own without the necessary support. However, if we are to correct the situation and ensure there are mandatory inquests, then we must also address the failures which led to the need for inquests. For instance, Ireland has the lowest number of consultant obstetricians per 100,000 women in the OECD. That's one consultant for every 597 births per annum. To illustrate how poor the service we provide to women is, the comparable rate in Scotland is 1 for every 268 births. The shortcomings in the maternity services are numerous and have directly led to heartbreaking incidents involving mothers and children, including in some cases their tragic death. As legislators, we must acknowledge that while it is right to ensure there are mandatory inquests in the event of maternal deaths, we must also act on the state's maternal strategy and other relevant measures. The National Maternity Strategy has no statutory underpinning and huge swathes of it have not been implemented. We must also address the issues while ensuring there are mandatory maternal death inquests. However, it's unfortunate that the bill doesn't appear to facilitate what has become known as Jake's Amendment. That would bring about a change in coroner legislation that my colleague Senator Padraig McLaughlin has been advocating for many years. In 2013, 14-year-old Jake McGill Lynch was prescribed the antidepressant Prozac. He ended his life using a firearm. Jake was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and was given the antidepressant drug despite research stating that the drug has no benefit for children with Asperger's and despite the emerging evidence of harm. The coroner in Jake's case rejected the suicide verdict. That was due to an email that Jake wrote 24 hours before he took his own life. When writing to a friend, he conveyed his concerns about the medication he was taking and said that he was feeling worse because of it. The bill Senator McLaughlin introduced some years ago proposed to amend the Coroners Act in order that it would be possible to return a verdict of Éabhtrasaid Gomalaiscail iatrogenic suicide, which is essentially suicide brought on by side effects of prescribed medication. Despite many assurances to Jake's family from Ministers for Justice and Equality, the bill does not cater for the measures they wish to see included. Sinn Féin will submit an amendment on committee stage to introduce that measure, Minister, and we look forward to engaging and working with you in that regard. That will not only be a way in which we'll seek to strengthen this legislation, but I'm sure many will agree with us that we should include a provision to provide a statutory basis for a coroner to inquire into a stillbirth where there is a cause for concern, for example, arising from matters raised by the bereaved parents. We also believe that it is essential that this legislation provides for the Minister to make regulations on the proper storage and family management of any material removed for the purpose of a post-mortem. A post-mortem examination, including return to a family member where a request is made and where it is appropriate, and to provide for the coroner to direct the hospital or other health institution to make medical records of the deceased person available for the purposes of a post-mortem examination. Those are just a number of areas in which we will seek to be constructive and to strengthen this legislation along with you and other colleagues, Minister. So overall, we in Sinn Féin support the aims and objectives of the bill, and again thank all those, including you, Minister, who in one way or another have been raising issues concerning inquests into deaths in the state for many, many years. This legislation is a result of their tireless pursuit of justice on behalf of their bereaved families. Gura Maigat.